what are the main benefits of cultivating an ethical work culture to an organization? Because it must make some good business sense, right, to do this. So organizational resilience and reliability are key features of a sustainable business model. So we know a lot about sustainability, ESG, etc. for organizations. So very important to have that. Organizations that don't have an effective and fair business with HR policies and welfare systems are often rife with things like nepotism and financial, maybe administrative corruption, and so on and so forth. And they don't generally thrive as organizations. After a while, they sort of kill themselves off. They also operate with a high set of risks, because whilst it may be argued that some organizations, some parts of the world are successful and thrive in certain places, they seldom are able to these organizations thrive for too long. So in terms of the sustainability, the long game, we say. Organizations also find it difficult to operate in more globalized markets where certain minimum standards of business ethics are expected. We've seen that with some organizations in different parts of the world trying to work in other parts of the world, and finding it very difficult because they have minimum standards which they can't really operate to in other parts of the world. But as I think it was Socrates who said that truly with virtue comes wealth. So in a more long-term sense, having good ethical work culture in place with a code of business ethics is probably a good idea for longevity of the organization. So what are the benefits? Also, organizations become have employees who are more engaged, more effective as sort of the internal organizational stakeholders. People feel that they're being treated fairly, that the customers are respected. They're not being fleeced, they're not being suppliers are not being asked to sort of pay bribes, and the authorities also they deal with are effectively supporting the organization. I think it's very challenging because how people who are regulators and people in the government in various contexts, and how industry itself and how academics define, and the purist sort of jurists or whatever legal experts look at things. They have different views and different perspectives on something, and they actually depart from different from a different what we would say in academics epistemological kind of positioning. My presentation really tried to highlight just simply that look, there's a difference between morality and ethics, and when we talk about ethical frameworks and we talk about the code of business conduct within the context of an organization, it is more about operationalizing the code of business ethics to make sure that people basically there is fairness within the organization, there is justice, and there's no sort of financial or administrative corruption, and there is no people abusing other people in whatever way, or people abusing their positions for personal gains or et cetera, et cetera. So obviously we know the world is not perfect, and we know that a lot of organizations suffer from a lot of these kind of issues. Many of them are actually institutionalized. Some of them are so deeply rooted and institutionalized within organizations, very, very difficult even to change them, except if you change a critical number of people, and that has a very big disruptive effect on organizations. So the answer is that it's very complicated, yes, but you can have a good discussion to look at the different perspectives and to look at that. There are certain organizations working in certain parts of the world who actually withdrew themselves from working in certain parts of the world because they realized that they would not be able to do business in certain parts of the world because it actually just went against their corporate standards on ethics. And they had to close the business down and not operate within that area. Some others found a way to go through third parties to do all of that. And some others said, well, no, because we know that the business is being done like that. And the third party that we're bringing in as a sort of a consultant, kind of thing, and we're paying the consultant quite an exorbitant amount to get the business done, we know that the consultant is actually paying someone off to get this done, and we just don't, as an organization, want to support working and allowing that kind of injustice to continue in a particular jurisdiction. Not all companies, by the way, are that have that position on things. But pragmatically, very simply, you have a code of business ethics, and you can probably control at least 70-80% of stuff which could be done very, very easily, which would not be good for in terms of a business code of business ethics. So you could put a code of business ethics and get rid of about 70-80%. One last point I'd like to say is that in the Quran it actually says وَمَا كُنَّا مُعَذِّبِينَ حَتَّى نَبْعَثَ رَسُولًا, and we were not to punish until we had sent a messenger. So I think in the law, everywhere in the world, it's very difficult to punish somebody on something or take them to task if it's not written, and then you have a point of reference to say, well, you broke this rule. So the codes of business ethics came in order to make sure that people knew that, look, you can't do this, and if you do it, we can take action against you. Otherwise, if you didn't do that, an employee could go and potentially sue the company